We are traders of technology in what we do. We take, for instance, I mentioned the fiber optic sensing. We're taking it from one industry, applying it to Navy ships to do something that was never done before. So I see having the opportunity of doing the same with the Connecticut Technology Council, of helping companies identify solutions maybe in a parallel industry. I'm always saying that, we could be sitting at a board meeting and the person sitting next to us in a completely different industry may have a solution that we've been trying to get, on a problem we've been working on for months.
Hey, this is a quick reminder to listen to our Made in America podcast on your favorite podcast app. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our special releases, updates, or highlights.
Hey, welcome to another exciting episode of the Made in America podcast. I am really excited to have my old friend Gio Tomasi on, who's the CEO and CTO of RSL Fiber. Gio, how's it going, my man?
It's going great. Thank you for having me on, Ari, and it's great seeing you.
Yeah, man, it's really good to see you again. But listen, it's the Made in America podcast, so we always start off with the same two questions, Gio. What do you make, and why do you make it?
What do we make? We make fiber optic lighting systems for the Navy and for industrial applications. We make fiber optic sensing systems primarily for Navy ships, and we make high efficacy industrial lighting. That's a new product. And why do we make it? It's because we look at problems and we assume that that's how things are, and we look at solving those problems. And we find many solutions by thinking way outside the box.
Oh, there you go. Well, listen, I'd love to hear about that. High value add, creative engineered products, Connecticut's strong suit, no doubt about that. But before we sort of get into what you guys make, why don't you kind of share with the audience, Gio, how did you get into manufacturing? Where'd your passion for manufacturing come from?
Well, I can get on a soapbox about manufacturing. And it goes back to, I just realized it was 40 years ago then I started in manufacturing. I was going to UConn, and I was looking to get a part-time job. And there was this company in Willimantic, at the time was the Brand Rex company, now Prysmian General Cable, looking for a technician. So I went and interviewed, and, they asked me, what do you know about fiber optics? And I had maybe 5 minutes in one of the digital processing classes where the professor showed us the fiber and said, this is the future, and explained how light travels. And so I just said all I knew, which wasn't much. But
it was enough?
It was enough. And I realized I knew more than 99% of the people there. And so the HR person said, hold on, let me call Tom Redmersky. Tom was the product manager of this new product line, fiber optics. Says, Tom, I think we have the guy for you. And that's how I got into the fiber optic cable manufacturing.
So lifelong passion was born by chance.
And many applications, and seeing something that was theoretically could only work on paper and never work in real life, and now it's everywhere.
So what was your sort of journey to start off there that ended you up kind of running your own business?
Good question. Yeah. One of the first projects I was working on was trying to convince the U.S. Navy that fiber optics was the way to go on Navy ships. So keep in mind, this is the 80s, when I want copper in my ships. I don't trust that glass stuff. I drink beer from my glass. So there was a gentleman at the shipyards, Bob Moray, this engineer that became my mentor. And he was great at explaining things in what's in it for you. Not, let me tell you about this great product, but he could frame something into what's in it for you installer, for you ship designer. And that really got fiber optics on Navy ships. And now there's millions of feet on every new ship that's being built. Well, early 90s, Bob asked me a dumb question. He said, Gio, what if we took a bunch of fibers, put them together, put a lot of light, and ran it up a mast? Because we're designing new ships that you won't be able to climb and change the light bulb on navigation lights. And the little I know it's classified, but I can just tell you, we could use a way of getting light energy up the mast. But I know it's a dumb idea. I go, yeah, Bob, it's a really dumb idea. Why don't we try it? So we started developing some of the cables for transporting light from a light source up to.
So let's just start back for 1 second. So in the old days, how was light? Light was transmitted being like just electricity on a copper wire to a light bulb, like I do at
electricity.
My house. Like everyone, like just a little screw in light bulb, whatever. That's how it was done.
That's how you do it. You have the energy is transported with electricity, and then you convert it at the point where you need the light into photonic energy, light energy. There's some challenges.
And so the goal here was to say, that isn't going to work in this application because we're not going to be able to. The light bulb, the old question, I guess, how many Navy sailors does it take to change a light bulb? Apparently impossible on this particular application.
Or a lot, or $20,000 worth of scaffolding. So that's and plus there were also electronic systems that could be affected by the electricity going up to the light. And so we developed the first system where you had the light source here, you ran the cable, and the first cables were big, bulky. I have one here that installers will look at and go, I have to install that. But there was a first step. It was not a failure, it was realizing what doesn't work and how we can move forward. So now we're getting into the late 90s, and I was aching to get into on my own. I had been in corporate life almost 20 years, was good, but I wanted to be on my own. And the opportunity came when a division of what was Litton Industries, Litton was bought by Northrop Grumman, they were integrating these systems, these fiber optic lighting systems. Northrop Grumman buys them and says, we like it for our ships. We're not a lighting company. Get rid of it, close it down. And so I put a team together, and we bought the small division that made the very first, these pilot fiber optic lighting systems. The technology was interesting enough to the U.S. Navy, so the Office of Naval Research funded a team that we were part of to evolve them to where they could be used on Navy ships, and the rest is history. That's what kicked off the company, RSL Fiber Systems. So
was there ever a successful fiber deployment at the original place, pre-RSL?
Well, there were. Fiber was used for hot tubs, to illuminate swimming pools. So you had the light box here, you went 10 feet, and you could have underwater lighting with no electricity. As soon as you went 50 feet, there wasn't enough light to be a navigation light to be used for illumination.
So for just 1 second. So for those of us, and hopefully I'm not getting too nerdy for the audience, but so we got the copper idea, which is everyone knows electricity to the light thing. And so fiber's what? Like what is, to the layman, what is fiber optic?
Fiber is basically silica glass, high purity silica glass. Some of the systems use plastic, so clear plastic, but plastic absorbs, you lose a lot of light. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing is taking the same silica glass that's used for telecommunication.
I was going to ask you that.
Except it's the way you make the fiber, you modify it so you can transmit visible light instead of infrared light like you do for communication.
Right, because a lot of us are familiar with, like, we hear about the streets running out the fiber optic or my internet runs on fiber, whatever. So same principle of the physical infrastructure, it's just the light you're sending.
The light
different.
that we're sending, light energy that's generated here, and we use fibers. They're larger in size. We have bundles of fibers because you need to have a lot of light energy. For communications, you're in the milliwatts range. We're getting into the watts range. So you need a lot more light energy. 1,000 times more energy. 1,000, times more energy to have a light that can be visible 6 miles away, 10 miles away. So
that's a lot of light.
It's a lot of light, and it's amazing how much energy you can get out of some of the new light sources. So
you come up with the idea to innovate, come up with a way to transmit light without having to deal with high light bulbs. And I sort of interrupted you, but it sort of sounds like you had some fits and starts getting the thing off the ground.
Yes, there were some challenges initially. It sounds easy. You take a lot of light, put it in a fiber. Well,
it does sound easy actually when you say it like that.
And I remember some of my partners when I started the company. The guy was on the financial side. Said, "Why don't you just take a lot of light and concentrate it with mirrors?" Like, well, I'm trying to explain optics and so on. I'm like, okay, let's let us do what we do well.
We'll make the lights.
We'll make the light. So there were challenges with heat management, with how much, the efficiency and so on. what was really interesting, we designed the system that went on the LPD-17 class. Most people know the USS New York. It's one of the ships in that class made with, the hull is made with some of the steel from the World Trade Center. So the first ship, the USS San Antonio, goes out for deployment, and a memo comes back, and we have some of our lights on the ship and some are conventional lights. So a memo comes back from the commanding officer, Commander Lee. And whenever you get a memo on the lighting, you go, oh, is it good or bad? So we get a copy, and Commander Lee says, my RSL lights are very bright. My conventional light, electrical light, is not. Request upgrade of the conventional lights to RSL, and the memo ended, request action soonest. Well, by Navy standards, soonest was in 2 years, but it was good news that our lights work so well, were so bright, that the commanding officer wanted additional lights to be of our type of lights.
And what's the, aside from the no light bulb change, what's the other value of going with fiber-based lighting versus the traditional?
One of the challenges on Navy ships, on any maritime environment, is corrosion. Everything corrodes, even 316 stainless. We've seen it corrode. So when you have electrical devices,
because like the sort of the caustic environment with salt water and all that stuff.
Salt fog, yes. Even you go to a marina, you look at the lights in the marina, and you look up, and some of those are just rust buckets.
Yeah.
And it's inevitable. No matter how well you design it, rust will get in the metals and corrode. So we have all the electricals here. We don't need metals anywhere outside of the box that generates the light. So we have these devices topside exposed to salt air to corrosion that are plastic, made out of Delrin, out of composites, so that they basically can outlast the life of the ship. They can last forever. I have a couple of them here. This is one of our devices, one of the light diffusers, small, lightweight, so you can keep the top side of the ship light. And this thing is all plastic, all Delrin.
Yeah, so for people that are listening, like I do, it sort of looks, it reminds me of like little lights you have maybe on your walkway going into your house, right?
Yep.
Like right on the ground there that sort of illuminates that
exactly,
walkway.
Yeah.
And that's a shipboard light right there.
That's a light that we sell to the U.S. Navy for some of the ships, to the Italian Navy for the frigate class. And
the beauty of this is the light source, there's no actual light generating source on that unit at all. The light's all generated at the core.
The source.
At the source. And then this is just, so what's in there?
What it does, it has some optics, so it shapes the light, the shape of a navigation light. Navigation lights have to be a certain output angle, a certain intensity. So this will shape the light, and based on which light it is, we have different optics to shape the light. It's a side light, masted light, a task light, and so on, or a stern light. So with this little device, you can install it. It's lightweight. So again, you don't need a big structure like you do for the electrical lights. And you install it, and unless somebody messes it up by painting over it, which has happened, then you can install it and never have to do any maintenance on it.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I recall, I was saying I had a mentor that taught me to present a product in what's in it for you, not, hey, how great my product is.
Right.
And I recall a trade show when Admiral Bugsby, he was the commander of the Sea Lift Command, all the cargo ships of the Navy, the supply ships, came up to me and said, I know about your product. Here's the name of my guy. He doesn't care about lighting, about fiber optics. He cares about rust. You solve his rust problem, and we'll do something with it.
You have a relationship.
We have a relationship.
That's great. And so how's it been sort of, it's been 20 years, 21 years, I guess, since you started RSL.
Yes.
Struck it on your own. How have you felt about it?
Well, it's been roller coaster having your own business. We did very well. We also were contracted to do all the lights on the Stealth Destroyer class. So there was a big project for us, was well over $20 million. So we grew quickly. We made the Inc. 500 one year. And then government sequestration came, and it was a nosedive. We also looked at other areas where you need to have light with no electricity at the emission point. And coal mining looked really good in 2009, 2010. By 2015, we had customers that were saying, "I love to buy your stuff, but I'm closing the mine." It was down, and now we're back up again. There's some new programs, new Navy programs, and we've expanded into the commercial market.
I was going to ask you,
Yes. Yeah. We were approached by a large OEM, US-based, that makes gas turbines for power generation. And they were looking at how to get light inside the gas turbine enclosure, where it can get very loud, so you have vibrations from the acoustics, and very hot, over 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So even the best LED lights won't last more than a few months at those temperatures. So we developed a system where we actually, as opposed to the Navy, where we put the lights inside the ship, the light generation, we have the light generation outside the turbine enclosure, and we go in and we
sort
illuminate.
of the exact reverse.
The exact reverse, yes. Yeah.
What about like expanding into sort of commercial boating or getting out, like expanding beyond defense? Is the cost too high? Like why doesn't it translate?
Well, some of the drivers for defense, one of the drivers, the reason why this item is so small, it's the radar cross section. Keep the ships invisible. For power boats, for pleasure boats, you want them to be visible so the big cargo ship will see you. So there's some advantages that we offer to military ships that you don't need for commercial ships.
Sure.
Something that we're looking at, though, it's the high-end market, the mega yachts. And the way somebody described it to me, someone that sells lights for mega yacht flight decks, I said, "What are the requirements?" They said, "It's a stupid money industry. To outdo the billionaire that had the nicer flight deck when you were in Monaco side by side."
Right.
So
being cooler.
It's, you could be a 10-year-old kid and you want the cooler bike, or you could be a 40-year-old billionaire.
You want the cooler boat, landing strip. Cool. Well, there you go. I don't know how big the billionaire landing strip market is, but
But it's, yes, the stupid money. Yeah. So we're looking into it. Yeah.
So, Gio, I want to switch gears maybe a little bit. You and I know each other from our time on the Connecticut Technology Council. You spent some time sort of engaging outside of your business in the community, and I know that's something we've seen a lot from Connecticut manufacturers. And I'm just curious, what sort of drove you, or what drives you, I should say, to invest some of your time in the broader community and sort of working outside of just growing RSL?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it's pay it forward. You look back. Any of us look back at our past. We had so many great people, so many mentors that helped us get where we are. And I think we underestimate how much we know that can be of value to somebody else. And a lot of times we don't realize that we can just ask somebody and they'll help us out. And if somebody comes to us asking us for help, we're glad to give them help. And I see the Connecticut technology ecosystem as being very diverse. We're a small state, but we have so many different resources: biotech, IT, advanced manufacturing, aerospace, shipbuilding. And I really believe that there's, in the past, you had great wealth that was created by trading goods. Silk, Venice became a powerhouse. Take silk from the Orient, spices, sell them in Europe. I really believe that there's a lot here, that a lot of wealth to be created by sharing knowledge. And, especially when you have such a diverse environment. We are traders of technology in what we do. We take, for instance, I mentioned the fiber optic sensing. We're taking it from one industry, applying it to Navy ships to do something that was never done before. So I see having the opportunity of doing the same with the Connecticut Technology Council, of helping companies identify solutions maybe in a parallel industry. I'm always saying that, we could be sitting at a board meeting and the person sitting next to us in a completely different industry may have a solution that we've been trying to get, on a problem we've been working on for months.
Yeah, so kind of getting out there and expanding your mind and all that stuff.
And it's great when the satisfaction when you can help somebody, get out of that, solve the problem. So
Yeah.
that's what drives me to.
You talk about sort of paying it forward, and I wonder, when you look back on your life, do you see some mentors in the past that really helped to drive you, that really you're thinking that drive you to want to pay it forward?
Oh, I see many. The first was the gentleman I mentioned that offered me the first job into fiber optics, and then he went on to start a company, a fiber optic cable company. Then he retired, but he couldn't sit still. Turns out he was one of our top engineers. He joined RSL Fiber
No
Systems
kidding.
for a number of years.
Wow. So he started you and then came back to be part of the team later.
And came back, and he was a guy that would tell it like it is. And at times we had difficult conversations, even though he was my engineer, he could tell me, but it was great. It was a real mentor. Another gentleman was a person who had done very well as a vice president of engineering for one of the nuclear power plants companies in New Hampshire. Retired, didn't need to work, but when I told him what we were doing, he was very interested, became the project manager for the DDG 1000 program. And he taught me lessons in humility, in the sense that here's a person that when we had some challenges, of course, when you have a team of type A, you have some issues, I'm sure.
So if you get people that are opinionated,
Yes,
you're gonna run into some
So we were
challenges.
going to have a meeting to decide who takes the lead running the program, and so him and I had coffee before the meeting, and he said, Gio, look, either I run the program for you, or I expect him to say, look, and I wish you the best. He was a competitive ski racer, sailor. We'll stay in touch, but I'll quit.
Something else.
He said, or you put somebody else in charge, I'll make sure they're successful. I will support him 100%. I said, Tom Maines was his name. We're not going to the meeting to discuss who will be. We're going to tell him you will be the one in charge. Somebody like that says, I'll make you successful no matter what.
Perfect.
Someone else that, another guy that helped me get really RSL off the ground, David Patch. He was a retired Navy officer, commander. As we were getting the company, the project off the ground, we had a facility in New Hampshire. He got an inflatable mattress, coffee maker, and he said, I need to be here full time. It was 2 hours away, so I would go there, spend a few days, stay in a hotel. But to save money, I'll sleep on the floor because we need to be successful. So
you had some people that really helped
you see
along
these
the way.
people that tell you it's the mission.
It's the mission. So I was actually going to ask you, maybe on the broader scale, when you think about mentorship, what do you think makes a good mentor? Like what does that relationship look like?
I think a good mentor is somebody that is not afraid to tell stories of how they messed up to whoever they're mentoring, to laugh about themselves. And I remember coaching little kids in soccer, and knows how to use the sandwich of criticism between two compliments.
Okay.
So as you mentor somebody, you need to point out the negatives, but read the person and learn to do it in a way that positive, but you could do better here, and another positive.
You have to build them up,
Build them up, yeah.
break them
Don't
down.
knock them down, and you need to be able to laugh at yourself.
Yeah, there's no question about that. How do you think about, when it seems like it's a very niche industry,
Yes.
what you're doing. And so when you think about trying to bring on people to help grow the team and develop the team, do you struggle to find people that know fiber optic lighting?
Oh, yes. You learn about some, technologies in school and, in work, but there isn't a fiber optic lighting curriculum per se. So what we look for is somebody that can, and again, think out of the box, come up with ideas. We had a young man from UConn. He was an intern, and we hired him for a while. Then we lost him. We couldn't compete with larger companies. But he would come up with ideas, and they wouldn't work. And he'd go, oh, gee, I'm sorry, I failed. I said, no, we can check off that this doesn't work. Let's keep moving on. Someone who can really keep trying, that has you need a good baseline technology grasp. You need to understand some of the the basics, but someone that can adapt what they know and learn. There's no true, we're now developing laser sources for fiber optic lighting. So there really isn't a product line out there. But what we're doing, we're taking it from the cinema projection industry that's using laser sources and applying it to transporting light and illuminating remote locations. So we look for somebody that can see what our problem is and look outside and see how.
Need you get creative with it.
Get creative.
That's finding creative people that are willing to kind of get in there and mix it up and try new things and not be afraid to fail. And to your point, say, oh, well, we've got one more way it doesn't work, which is one step closer to finding the way that it does work. And so have you been able to find the staff that you need?
We have. It's been challenging to retain the staff because of how competitive the market is. We had when we had the DDG 1000 program is what really ramped us up. We had some senior engineers, technical people like the individuals I described, and some younger engineers. And I remember we had this great guy, Nathan, young engineer from UConn. And once in a while, the building lights would flicker. Like, Nathan, what are you doing? Oh, sorry, guys. And we'd see him. He would think, and his hair would be out here. What did you do? Put your fingers in the socket. But he was great. He was creative. He didn't hesitate to go on a ship and learn. And so I think when we had people come to us, they were enthusiastic because we're not in a structured environment. And we're not with a technology that's so well defined. The challenge is retaining someone in this competitive industry.
Sure. Yeah. Listen. I mean, competitive all the way around. Listen. I know we're almost out of time, so I just want to wrap up with a couple quick things. What do you think what does the future look like for RSL? What are you excited about going forward? What's on the horizon?
One, it's our commercial products, and I have one here that shows. We call it the Zoom Vault after the ship that our lights are on. It's high efficacy lighting. Just
really quickly for anyone that's just not watching, I mean, I'm trying to describe what this looks like. It almost looks like either a light bar that would go on a car or the front headlights of a go-kart, maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's actually an industrial light that's mounted on the ceiling. Okay. We've done a pilot installation at CCAT, at their Advanced Manufacturing Center. So high efficacy, I'm saying, because one thing it's how many lumens you get from a watt. The thing that we do is how much light you get where you need it illuminated. So we have optics that will get it right where it needs to be illuminated. This is all US made. Some of the LEDs come from Japan, of course. So we really believe that there's a niche. We're not trying to compete with a made in China, replace your fluorescent with LEDs. The other area that I see for growth, in addition to the fiber optic lighting, that I see a need because there's a drive on Navy ships to eliminate electricity topside because of interference. I also see the sensing, fiber optic sensing. We had a number of Navy R&D programs that we worked on. And these are fiber optic remote sensors that monitor very complex electrical systems on Navy ships. And it's all about predictive maintenance now. Yeah. Don't wait till something blows up to fix it or change it because we do it every 6 months. Just monitor it. And so we see the sensing side also having a lot of growth potential in this niche area, in this Navy niche area.
Well, listen, man, Gio, it's always sounded like a lot of fun, working with what you guys do. And for creative people who want to be able to experiment, try new things, work on big, cool ships, it's a great place to be. I'm going to run us over to a rapid fire round of questions to round this out. Are you ready?
Yep.
You ready? All right.
I'm ready.
Here we go. Red Sox or Yankees?
Red Sox.
Starbucks or Dunkin'?
Starbucks.
Staycation or exotic destination?
Exotic destination.
SUV or sports car?
Compromise. I drive a Cayenne. Porsche Cayenne.
There you go. A sports car SUV. There you go. Do you have a favorite business book?
No, there's many books that are very, very inspiring. Cool. So I can't say there's any one
favorite
that I go to.
All right, cool. If you had to do something, Gio, other than be the CEO and CTO at RSL Fiber, and it could be anything in the whole wide world, what would you do?
I would go to back to what I really love doing is instructing performance driving and do it full time. Just love to be on the racetrack and see the smile, ear to ear smile, even through the helmet of a driver that finally gets it.
Man loves his race driving. What's something, Gio, that you learned early in your life or early in your career that you think has helped propel you to all the success that you've had?
Just like Winston Churchill said, never, ever, ever give up. And
Never give
there's
up.
many times that I should, no.
Stick with it. I got one other question, which is, what's something that you learned later in life or later in your career that if you could go back in time and tell young Gio, and if he'd listen to you, you think make a real positive impact on his life?
Probably, I was very focused on technical engineering, get more of a background in finance, in just business management, because that would have avoided some mistakes that I made when I got the company off the ground.
Listen, get a little bit of business. If you're going to start a business, get some business experience.
What you think you know, as you learn more, you realize you didn't know much.
Open to learning, man. I absolutely love it. Gio, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story. It was a real pleasure.
This is great. Thank you for having me.
Made in America with Ari Santiago is brought to you by CompassMSP.
Thanks for listening and spending some time with me today. My goal is to help build a strong manufacturing community, and it would be impossible to do without all of you.